Good morning, everybody. We got on eventually. We were struggling a little bit. Sia and I were frantically messaging each other at like 5 minutes to 6, going, "What the hell? We don't know what's happening. We were confused." Anyway, we're here. Friday. It's Friday, and Leigh-Ann, you look very snug and warm. You look like someone who's about to go to the North Pole, and it's only April. What's going on there, huh?
It is a little chilly this morning, man.
It is.
So this is just a snood.
It is.
So do you ever use that? Do you use that thing as a mask when you go to the shops? Or you can't?
Well, this is the first time this season I'm wearing it, is this very morning. So I haven't considered doing that, but I don't know if it would be very effective because, I mean, it's woolly and wool has holes in it.
So do those masks.
So the masks don't start.
It's all just a show. It's just a show. So we've got to, put on our masks like you would if you were going to a masked ball. That's what it is. It's just like that, except instead of covering your eyes, you cover your mouth.
Now, Leigh-Ann, I will have to say I do believe in a snood more than I do in a scarf.
Definitely.
A scarf has the ends that are hanging about, which means if the killer wants you, the killer can grab the ends and just pull on them.
Listen, I had a near facial accident with the scarf once.
What happened?
After getting home from doing the show in Auckland Park, I got out of my car and I dropped my keys in the driveway. So I bent down to pick up my keys, not realizing at the same time that I'd stood on the end of my scarf.
Yes.
And as I stood up, it pulled me down into the gravel.
Oh, no. See?
Oh, God, no.
So they're very dangerous things, You definitely should go for the all-rounder.
Exactly. That's what the ground and the killer can do to you.
Yeah, but I hate to say it, Sia, but the killer can also just pull on the end of the what do you call that? A snood. And then they can pull you in that way as well. In fact, they probably don't have to pull as hard. Plus, they're guaranteed to pull your head with the rest of you. Whereas with the scarf could come loose. I
think we're safer with a snood. Safer with a snood, I say.
So I went out for dinner last night, and who should I see there but Sia Sangweni with somebody at a table.
What?
Yeah, despite the fact that Johannesburg is such a huge place and there's so many people, there are only a few of us who could still go out for dinner, and clearly Sia and I are among those few people who can still go out for dinner.
We're keeping the restaurant industry alive.
What are the chances? I mean, there's so many restaurants.
But it is one of Joburg's most, I think, one of their really top quality places. And I'm not just saying that because I know the people who run it. The Khojanis. It's called Jameli, which is really, that's such a good place. So I walked in because we were there it was a surprise birthday party. So the invite only went out yesterday. And to be perfectly frank, I'm not big on going out during the week. I'm properly... Like I'm really one of those people. I don't mind doing things on the weekend, and I don't think I'm ever going to get totally old and boring. But during the week, I kind of like to keep it at home. I drove out of my house last night, and I was like, well, it is a good friend of mine's birthday, so I'm going to do this. But I was a little bit grums about it. So I eventually arrived at the restaurant, walked in, and sitting at a table right in the middle, holding court, was Sia Sangweni.
So he wasn't part of the same party?
No. But he was at the same place. And
then you felt better.
Yeah, and no, I did. No. So I walked up and said, how's it to Sia? And then we had a little table off to the side. And we were, I don't know how noisy we were, Sia, but we probably only spent an hour and a half there. And then everybody kind of went their own way.
You guys were gone relatively early.
Yeah. I think everybody had, one of the guys has just had a baby, and, then everybody else has work commitments. And usually after a dinner like that, we would have gone out somewhere, and it would have ended up being a late night. But I think considering that maybe either people are growing up or because lockdown has changed some things, we all got out of there pretty quickly. We all actually left at 9:30, and then on the way home, the cops were there in the road, which was dun, dun, dun. Usually,
bless you.
usually I would have been, oh no, here are the cops. But thank God I hadn't had a single drink, so I was absolutely fine. So I'm like, yes, go ahead. What do you want to test?
Sure.
So like,
so you did you
no,
go on?
no. So the cops just said, have you been drinking? I said no. And they just said, all right, go. Because
Okay.
I really like the one night I wanted to be tested, they were like, no, we're not going to.
You should have gone when they said, have you been drinking? You should have gone, no, not me.
Just start slurring.
Yeah.
Oh
So
gosh.
anyway,
Well, I have to say I had a great time. That at dinner restaurant was amazing. The conversation was great, but I had something that just scared the bejesus out of me.
what?
And I'm still
what was this?
Yes. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I wouldn't say that I never believed in mediums, but I just never had a reason to believe in them, if that makes sense. But I got a text from a friend of mine probably 2 days ago who was trying to reach me. And she was very diplomatic about like, hey, please let me know when you're free for a call. And I thought, oh, it's just going to be a catch up. Let me just call her over the weekend. And while I was at dinner, she sends me another message and says, hey, I really need to tell you something. And their father passed away recently, who I was very close to.
And he left you millions.
Now I go, oh my gosh, is this really urgent? What is happening? And she calls me right at dinner and she says, look, I hate to scare you. I hate to interrupt, but we went to a medium and dad came through for you. Now I go, oh Lord. And she just starts offloading on things, honestly, they wouldn't even know about me. But this medium has now said that came through from the father. And now I don't even know what to believe anymore. I don't.
Like what sort of things did he say that no one could have known?
Look, I don't know. We don't even post about each other often. And their father passed away about 3 months ago. So they went as a family. And even just to be as blunt, they're a white family. So in the middle of this reading, in inverted commas, to now go, the medium said it as clearly as, siyabonga. And the whole family was like, what's happening? And the medium goes, yes, this is a Zulu phrase, but I feel like it's a person. And they go, okay. And he says, there's a message coming through for someone named Siyabonga. Do you know who that is? And they all nod. And then she just starts rattling off these things to say. It is still very to me. I've never had an experience like this ever before.
And was it stuff that you knew couldn't have just been like total random bullshit?
Yeah. And it's a lot of personal stuff, like super, super personal. I hate to be one of those people who like raises a story, then I can't really tell the full story.
Listen, you can take two views on this. You can either take the view that these people do have supernatural gifts or abilities, which is difficult for some of us to accept, or you can accept that they are really, really talented at making stories relevant to people. Now, whichever it is, it's still a skill. Were these messages that you were given through your friend by this medium, were they good or were they scary?
Good, yeah. It's all exactly what he was to us, and specifically what he was to me when he was alive. Reassuring, he was there for advice, he was there to help, and that was what everything was. Even something as frivolous as, my lease is coming to an end next month, and I don't know what to do about it. and the media made reference to that. I was like, oh, do you know that? That's scary.
That's
Yeah,
very
he made
scary.
reference to Alice and said, yeah, just go get a new place. It's a new energy. It's new time in your life. I'm like, okay.
Did he mention that you'd shat your pants? Was it personal stuff like that?
Yeah, that's very important. Good point. Well put. Yes. That's what we need to know. Bishlang says, yeah, we want to know everything.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it was great to hear from him, and great that we could connect like this. But for when your beliefs come into play, I now question everything about my life. Going, I've watched these shows, I second guess all of them. I go, ugh, please, I don't believe in them. But I was one of those people in the middle of a busy restaurant, and I had thought I had just excused myself from the table, going, this is going to be, just a minute. I was now quarter to tears on the side of the restaurant going on.
Well, Steph wants to know,
Wow.
this is also a good question. How long did it take you to order last night?
Oh, no, please.
There's one thing about the way that we do a whole restaurant visit now, and we go out for dinner, as opposed to how it was done before lockdown, that I quite like. I like this idea of scanning a QR code and getting the menu on your phone. I like that you don't have to pass around this big menu that you don't know where it's been. You know how often they clean them, and they always it's complicated. It's so much easier to just do it on your phone, and it can look different every single day. It costs the restaurant a whole lot less to make the menus. I like that. I think that's a good thing.
Very good point. Well put.
Yes. So I like the QR code menu situation. Yeah, I had just such a lovely meal. But did it take you hours to order? Did you find something you liked, Sia?
No. I actually know what I like to have when I go there. They have big, hearty meals with great portions. So I'll have some of my leftovers for lunch today. Oh, that's lunch today after I've, by the way, booked my own session with a medium now.
Oh, you're going to the same one?
No, I hate to sound so woo-woo, but I'm like, if you know so much, I need to expand on that. I need to hear something more. So I'll talk to her later.
Well, Rajesh says, a midget psychic escaped from jail last week. Police are looking for a small medium at large. I love that.
Oh, dear.
Charles Tibe is saying, good morning, death by scarf. And then Tracy adds, Leigh-Ann, when you're wearing a snood or a scarf, apparently Isadora Duncan died that way. Her long silk scarf got stuck in her convertible car's wheels and snapped her neck.
Jeez.
Oh, Jesus, that's horrible.
That actually happened as well. I think it was a guy in South Africa, although I really don't know. I don't know. No, but it was with a dog lead. So he'd been to the park, and he usually unhooks the dog and then, wraps it around the back of his neck, got into his car, and it was hanging on it got stuck in the wheel as he was driving.
God, that's horrible. Oh, that is horrible. Sweet Jesus. Yeah, that we've often spoken, because we're so macabre on this show, about like the worst ways to go. But I still think being eaten, and I had this conversation with someone just the other day. Being eaten is my least favorite of all the possibilities. It's really
you have this conversation like scarily too often. Concerning.
I know, but if I'm going to choose, you never know. If I'm going to choose, I'm going to put it out in the universe that please do not let me be eaten. That's all I'm going to say. Then I'll be happy. Anything else I'll go along with, All right. Well, we've got quite a lot to get through today. We've got actually something pretty interesting, I should think, a bit later on. Someone called Dr. Paul Bayliss will be talking to us. He's a senior specialist art curator, and he's going to be telling us about this competition that's running. And if you're an artist, this could be something that you're really interested in. And I hope you would be, because, artists have had a very tough time under lockdown, whether you're a performing artist or whether you're a person who paints and draws and, maybe you sculpt things. It's in some ways, I suppose your creativity might have gone through the roof because you actually had time to be at home and you haven't had to do so many of the stuff, the things that you might have had to do when you go and see people and so on. But we're going to talk a bit about art and find out about a new competition, and there might be some money in it too, which is very nice. We'll get to that. We've also got George Meany later on in the show because it's Friday, and that means Auto Central, the Power Pod. And we'd like to hear from you if you aren't already watching us live on YouTube, in which case, please subscribe and like, because we need to know about that. Leigh-Ann, just do it like an influencer would on a normal YouTuber would, please.
So guys, that's all. Wrapping it up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so that you get all of my notifications. Thanks, y'all. See you in the next video.
All right, very good. Very, very good. I realized like we've missed one thing for the week, which I'm so embarrassed about because, here we are giving people instructions to do one thing a week. We can't even get that thing right. We can't even get the thing do as a thing once a week. So that's coming up in a second or two. Anything exciting happening? Because it's sort of a long weekend. I mean, Monday is a work day, and we'll be here on Monday. We'll be doing the show live on Monday morning. But
I thought we said we weren't.
I know we had a board meeting and we decided we are going to do it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I found out.
Yeah. We better let Leigh-Ann know. Will you just send her?
Yes.
I don't know. Will you tell Leigh-Ann? No, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Should I send her the minutes? Oh gosh, I'll send her the minutes.
All right. So one thing for the week.
So, yeah.
Do you want to do this? This week you're going to be a mini prostitute. I know this sounds like it could be very dirty, but you're going to do a mini act of prostitution this week so that we can just make these things a little more normal and you don't have to be so judgy. I know Sia's already being judgy because Sia doesn't like strippers. So you can decide which one you want to do. We'll start at the very bottom. You can look at someone suggestively, and then when they look back and they kind of look like they might be interested as well, you could say to them, that'll be 50 cents, please. And they won't know what's going on, but it's just going to be a fun way to break the ice, right? And then, because you might see people this weekend, who knows? You might meet some new people this weekend. You might go out and bump into someone at the shop, and then you look at them suggestively, and then they'll look at you suggestively, and you go, hello.
You'll have to really use your eyes on this one because we're all wearing masks.
Yeah.
We have to do a lot of eyebrow work.
If you feel like getting a little bit more money for your effort, then you could just kiss someone on the cheek. But this would have to be after something has already happened. You can't just walk up to a complete stranger and kiss them on the cheek. But
no,
if you think
biff you over your head with their handbag.
No, they can think you're French.
Maybe, but I think it would probably be for a lot of people a little bit too much. But then you can charge them a lot more for a kiss than you can for a suggestive look. So you could say, kiss them on the cheek and then go, that'll be $2, please. And I mean, it might make them laugh. The third thing you could do is just grab their hand and caress it.
Oh,
that you could charge probably about, I think 5, maybe even 10 Rand for. And it could be. It could be a person who looks lonely or a person who looks like they need some attention, and then you say that'll be 5 Rand, please. You could let someone pinch your bum. That would probably be a whole lot more, maybe $20. What do you think?
You might have to force someone to pinch my bum.
But they have to be. So they have to be minor acts of prostitution, not very major ones. So
sorry, I thought they have to be minors. Like, where is this going?
Be revolting. They have to be small prostitution acts. They don't have to be big ones.
Okay.
Because really, it is the oldest profession in the world, and most people never even consider it. And I'm so sick of people like prostitutes being judged when. We all know that accountants and lawyers are much, much more depraved, and yet prostitutes get a bad name. So there is no reason why you have to jump in at the deep end with full-blown sex and, having to charge strangers lots and lots of money. Find out if it is for you by starting small this week. So that's your one thing for the week. You're going to start off small with one tiny act of mini prostitution, and we'll see how it goes. Maybe you decide this is something I can do. You know, it would probably be better than opening up an OnlyFans. So do it. What the hell?
Better chance of success.
I think so. You know, I think so. Plus, you don't have to go all the way. It's just a small, fun little thing. And if it doesn't work for you, nobody ever needs to know, and no one will judge you. No one's going to say, "Oh, you're not only a prostitute, but you're a failed prostitute," because that's got to be very embarrassing. All right, we're going to get some
how would you fail prostitution?
Well, let's say you.
Not even a conversation.
So many ways. Yeah. I mean, let's say you did go for the caress someone's hand and they slapped your hand away. Then essentially you would have been a failed prostitute, because not only did you not complete the act, but you couldn't charge them because they rejected you from the outset.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be a fun thing to do this week.
I'll only do these things if I have a pimp to ensure that I get the money.
Okay. Well, Sia and I are happy to stand in as your pimp.
All right, great.
Done deal. So let's go to some headlines this morning.
About me, but you can't get Cadillac out of me.
Cadillac, you can't see that I'm a motherfucking PIMP.
PIMP.
Mm-hmm. God, I used to love that song. I still love that song. You brought it up. All right, so Jacob Zuma says some members of the ANC may be corrupt, but not the ANC itself. That's from News 24 this morning. Kavil Singh and Lwandile Mbengu reporting that former president Jacob Zuma criticized Cyril Ramaphosa's letter to the ANC in which he called the party corrupt. Zuma said, some members may be corrupt, but not the whole party. He says it's not a secret that the president wrote a letter saying the ANC is the number one corrupt organization in the country. He said he was writing this to all the members of the ANC. I think we demonstrated that our power and political understanding are weak because the ANC, in my view, is not corrupt, he said. Zuma was speaking in Umhlanga, north of Durban, where the SA National Civic Organization Youth Congress was celebrating its 79th birthday on the 12th of April. Zuma said the party as a whole could not be defined as corrupt, but he conceded there were challenges with some members. I wonder which member.
Well, at least he's admitting something, even if it's not the whole truth.
Really, you know, any admission by someone who is he's throat deep in corruption, this man. He is the guy at the center, and we spoke about this on the Burning Platform yesterday, and Kanthan Pillay, who made a return to the Burning Platform, if you missed it yesterday, was on fire. He said the whole Zondo Commission should have started with Jacob Zuma. They should have called him right at the beginning and said, right, tell us what went down and we'll pick up all the small pieces after you, because you're the guy who was the president of the country when all of this was going down. You were the one who let people in. You were the one who arranged the networks of patronage. So let's go. And of course, that is not what happened. And now he's running around telling people that the Zondo Commission is a witch hunt, which ironically Kanthan agreed with. Tokyo Sexwale, this is such a weird story. I still don't know what's really going on here, but Tokyo Sexwale, the ANC veteran, is sticking to his story that billions of rands sent via the so-called White Spiritual Boy Fund. I mean, what a thing to call it. White Spiritual Boy Fund was stolen, and that a major crime has been committed. After a few days of being told by many, including the Reserve Bank, that he had been scammed, Sexwale has hit back, saying that the money was real. He said an international banking system deposited a huge sum of money with the Reserve Bank. He said the fund was geared at paying for free education and bullet trains and other major projects, but now it is gone. They said it's called BIS, the system that he's talking, BIS. And then he says, despite the Reserve Bank saying that they had no record of this, Sexwale says he has not been scammed. But he has stood firm, saying the money was legitimate. He also said that he's turned to the president, the finance minister, and the Reserve Bank governor to verify the money, but received nothing back despite being blue-ticked on WhatsApp. Do you think this guy's losing his mind? I mean, this is so embarrassing. I mean, like, he's been blue-ticked on WhatsApp, and that's the only time he's been, he's sent messages, and now people are just, they're just, like, not replying to him because they probably don't take him terribly seriously.
So
Anyway,
bizarre.
So
he said this money
this
is
is
there and
crazy.
it's been stolen from him. But it could just be that Tokyo Sexwale, who, you know, he's a strange cat, this guy. I mean, when we had him in our studio, what was it, 2.5 years ago, he made some crazy allegations about what really happened and what is still happening and what went down. And, you know, he's made some enemies and he's made some friends. And to some people, he's still one of the respectable guys in the ANC. And to other people, he's one of the crazies. I don't know what to make of this story. I really don't. It is absolutely one of the most bizarre stories of 2021. And that's saying something.
And I think he's also enjoying this time and the attention that comes with it. He tweeted, I can't remember what time he spoke yesterday, but he tweeted that time, and then just with a photo of a can of beans spilling, like spilled out on the floor. So as in
He
at
put
X
pictures
time,
with it?
I'll be spilling the yeah, as in I'll be spilling the beans at this time. Like either someone has made him very, very annoyed, or people have gone behind his back, but he just
No.
has. It
It's
seems
so
like he has
funny, though.
nothing to lose.
This story appears on EWN, but then right under the story is an ad for how to spot a 419 scam. It's pretty funny. All right. Then this is one more politics story. We usually don't like these on a Friday, but Tourism Minister Mamaloko Kubayi-Ngubane on Thursday said that the sector would only fully recover once enough people were vaccinated. She briefed the media in Johannesburg on Thursday at the department's recovery plan to revive the sector. I mean, I don't know how government revived the sector, because it is thanks to the lockdowns that so many hotels have gone bankrupt, that so many people in tourism have been fired and laid off. It is entirely due to the lockdowns. It's got nothing to do with coronavirus. And it's unfortunate, obviously, that this has happened with international travel, and it's not always our government's fault. It could be the fault of other governments who've decided that there are travel bans on South Africa. But the ones who have survived, I just have to take my hat off to them and say well done to every small and medium and large business that is in the tourism industry and has made it through this horrible, horrible time. I don't know how government's going to help you. I really don't. Other than to stand there and say that they're helping you and do nothing, because that's what they do. I don't even know whether we shouldn't, since the tourism industry has been laid low, I think we should, as a symbol of our commitment to those who have survived and as a statement of intent to those who've lost their jobs and those who've gone under, I think we should just get rid of the cabinet position for tourism. I think the tourism minister should have to step down, just like most of the people in tourism have stepped down. And we should just get rid of that department right now, because I don't know how much good they do anyway. And I don't believe that they do a huge amount of good. And if you think that I'm wrong, please tell me so. I'd love to hear from you. But I think maybe she should step down as well. She should say, you know what? The tourism industry has been depleted, destroyed, and left in tatters. So I'm actually going to vacate this position and ask the president to close down the tourism ministry. That would be a good move. That's the only move that I could see government making that would make a difference. We'd
very,
save
very bold.
Yeah, we'd save some money. We wouldn't have to be paying for another minister who's sitting there talking shit while people are losing their jobs. Dozens of people have been injured in violent clashes in East Jerusalem between far-right Jewish activists, Palestinians, and Israeli police. Hundreds of ultra-nationalist Jews shouting death to Arabs confronted Palestinian demonstrators at the city's Damascus Gate late on Thursday. This is being reported by the BBC this morning. The police were trying to keep the two groups apart. They used stun grenades and tear gas against the protesters, some of who threw bottles and stones. A number of people were arrested, and we will keep an eye on that story. It's always, just as soon as you start thinking that the Middle East is settling down and it's becoming a place that is friendly, where the great religions of the world are spreading peace, and we spoke to a rabbi just the other day called David Rosen, who had some things to say about interfaith work that he's doing. Well, we've got a way to go, I'm afraid. And when you hear stories...
Yeah, just when you think peace is just a stone's throw away.
And SpaceX are aiming for Friday morning, that's today, to launch to the ISS. This is interesting. A new launch of the third crew that are being sent to the International Space Station might happen today. And they are reusing a rocket and crew capsule in a human mission for the first time. The Crew 2 mission blasts off from Pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida at 5:49 Eastern Time, after being delayed by a day by adverse weather along the flight path. It seems the weather is cooperating, so they will try to launch today. That's what Thomas
How many
Pesquet.
How many humans are there in space at the moment?
I'm not sure. I honestly don't know.
That's a question Siri can answer.
Yeah, you could ask Siri. Try it quickly right now. Let's go.
As my dad would say, I'm going to Google
it. Try, Leigh-Ann. Let's see if you can figure out how many people in space right now. They'd all have to be on the ISS because there's no one just wandering around. Okay.
6.
So this will take some more up. Okay.
You know what
that's the
I
first
just
discovered?
Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yeah, go on.
Here's what I discovered Siri knows. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excuse me. I'm ready for this. Hey Siri, what is Oprah reading? Siri, don't disappoint me now. Oh, okay, wait. Let's take it from the top. Hey Siri, what is Oprah reading?
Here's Oprah to tell you about it.
Oh, wow.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, wow.
Right now, we're reading the Gilead novels by Marilyn Robinson. These novels remind us to slow down, take a deep breath, and remember there is beauty all around us. Robinson's language embodies
How awesome! Siri knows what Oprah's reading.
So much meaning.
How long does she go on for?
All the important
love, family, our human condition.
Yeah. Join me as we journey into the world of Gilead.
Thanks,
How have you memorized it?
Oprah's book club.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
So now you know what Oprah's reading whenever you can ask Siri.
Really? Oprah.
Useless information.
So there is a website, howmanypeopleareinspaceriightnow.com, and it says 7.
Oh.
I think you might have told us about that website before, didn't you?
I may have. I remember some weird websites, but I don't know if this is the one. So at the moment, there is Shannon Walker. She's a flight engineer from the US. Victor Glover, the same. Mike Hopkins, the same. Soichi Noguchi, flight engineer from Japan. Oleg Novitsky. I don't know what flag that is. Mark van der Hey, who's from America. And Pyotr Dubrov, who's from the same place as Oleg Novitsky.
There are some people who, when you think you're talking to Siri, when you think you're talking to that person, it fires up Siri. Have you noticed that? Like some names.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Siri thinks you're talking to her. Very irritating. This is amazing. Bulelo actually sent this to us, and I think it's pretty cool. In Shanghai, look at this quickly. I'm going to put the picture up. A couple of days ago, a scannable QR code was projected into the sky by drones, and when scanned, allowed people to download a video game. This is the future of advertising. So these drones made it a scannable QR code in the sky. How cool is that?
It's amazing. Very, very cool.
Phenomenal.
So much for those airplanes that fly past with those little banners saying "Marry me."
Yeah. Good point. So, Sia, are you going to be reading Oprah's book? A lot of people want to know.
Not my cup of tea.
No.
But I will be asking Siri what she's reading, just for the fun of it.
A little warning in case you're one of those people who checks on the Bitcoin price every day and you haven't done it yet. Just a warning, it's below $50,000 today. You know, we were up at 63,000 just the other day. And this is what happens. It goes up and goes down. And this is why you shouldn't be surprised if you're expecting just a nonstop upward trend, as Sean Sanders said to us on Wednesday morning. It goes up and it goes down. You need to be aware of all of this.
The world doesn't work that way.
No, I'm afraid not. All right. Sia has found this account on YouTube that he loves and on Instagram, and it's called Unnecessary Inventions. Do you want to tell us about that?
So good. So good. It is exactly what exactly as the term encapsulates. It is just so fun. Go onto their Instagram. I know I've brought it up before on the show, but I don't know how this guy comes up with these things. They're stupid, but once you look at them, you go, yeah, actually, why don't we have things like that? Like one of the things that I saw recently is a rug just intended for your entryway at home that has, it's stupid actually. So it serves the purpose of a rug. It looks good. It's nice and fluffy for people who are inside of the house, but it's for those who have dirty feet. It actually has little holes cut out there for your dirty feet. So instead of walking on the rug, you're actually walking on the ground. It has. Does that make sense?
It's got like footprint cutouts.
It has.
So you can walk across it.
I mean, stupid, unnecessary, but you go, yeah, maybe. So then look at this for all of us who are still like working virtually and dealing with things over Zoom. Here's something else that he just created.
I invented the Zoom Borg, the webcam mannequin for all your important Zoom meetings. Simply grab the USB cord from the back of the device and plug it directly into your computer for an Ultra HD live feed of yourself. So, on your next Zoom call, you can get the feeling of talking face to face with another human being rather than a lifeless screen. Bring your Zoom meetings into the new normal today with the Zoom Borg.
That is the stupidest thing.
Why does the Zoom Borg have one eye, one big paper eye and one normal eye?
It is so unnecessary. Okay, here's another. Maybe this will make you believe in him.
I invented the haircut collar, the scientifically easiest way to cut.
What?
Oh,
just
wait
start
a minute.
again.
I invented the haircut collar, the scientifically easiest way to cut your hair completely on your own. The moment your hair starts looking real crazy, all you have to do is reach for this sleek neck brace and snap it shut around your Adam's apple. The dual mirrors will make cutting your hair around the blind spots on the back of your head an absolute walk in the park. You will never need a salon ever again. And the results will speak for themselves when you cut your hair with the haircut collar.
Oh, that's good. I can see why you like it. Well, I would too. I think it's cool.
Can you imagine
So
how that person
silly.
how much work it is for that person to keep thinking up unnecessary inventions? I mean, that's hard work. You know,
Yes, yeah.
I haven't come up with one good invention in my whole life, so I can only imagine how difficult it is to come up with new videos every week. That's tough stuff.
So good though. So good.
I hated
I
that
think-
at varsity when our lecturers would say, okay, your assignment is to come up with an invention either on paper or in building it as a model. It's like people spend their entire lives coming up with one invention and I must make one by the weekend.
Yeah, I can't come up with one good invention. I mean, I've thought about some utterly ridiculous ones that wouldn't even make it onto that guy's YouTube channel. But I don't think that's my strength. I don't think that's the thing that I'm going to do on planet Earth. I often think, I thought about Pepe Marais, who was on the show on Tuesday. Since we spoke to him, I've been thinking about it quite a lot. What is your purpose? Well, I don't think I'm going to be the one who, cures a terrible disease or manages to solve some great, perennial human problem. I'll probably just make people laugh.
There's a cream for perennial human problems.
Is there? What is it called, Leigh-Ann?
Anusol.
Thank
Anus
you.
ol. Isn't it called anus ol?
Yeah, basically. But
Do you pronounce
if you
it
ask for it over
anus-ol?
if you ask for it over the counter, you ask for anusol, but it does look like anusol.
I call it anus ol. So if I had to ask for it over the counter, I would say it like that. Sorry. I hope that's all right. Okay, we do have quite a lot for you in the next hour, so stick around for that. We've also got George Meany joining us this morning, as we do on a Friday. And because it is Friday and it's almost like a long weekend, we will be here on Monday. Just got to remind you of that too. A lot of people talking about that Bitcoin price that I brought up, and Andre Sarah, Savage Reader, saying, well, when the Bitcoin price drops, that's when it's time to buy. I suppose that's one way people are thinking about it. You don't buy Bitcoin to later convert back to shitty rands. You buy Bitcoin to one day use it. I suppose that's true. I spoke to the most interesting dude yesterday. He's a flat earther. Now, Sia found this guy somewhere. And, I mean, flat earth has become like the textbook definition of someone crazy. If you say someone is a flat earther, that is the most ridiculous thing you could say. It means you're basically saying they're a completely not credible lunatic and they must be ignored. And this guy, his name is Dave, and he actually goes by the name Dave the Flat Earther. And I spoke to him for maybe about half an hour. And he had a PowerPoint presentation, and he had his theories about how the universe really works and how the earth is flat and there's this ice wall and what's beyond the ice wall. And, the governments of the world are conspiring against us to keep us from the truth. And it was really interesting. And we're going to play that at some point in the next few days. Because honestly, like, I don't know what to say about it. You're going to have to figure it out yourself.
So have you come out any different to when you went in?
Probably not. Probably not.
I mean,
I say that
the first thing I want to say is, always, but we've seen the planet while people are in space. Ask those 7 people who are in space now. But then the argument then is that those pictures are fake, right?
Well, this is where I went into it with a very open mind. I was like, well, I'm going to give this guy a chance to explain his point of view and to kind of, without judgment, let him have a say and have a go. And really, I tried very hard to not be judgmental through the course of the interview, because I thought maybe there's something I can learn here. And there are a couple of things that he said that made me think. And there are a couple of things that I thought that might be, there's a remote possibility that might be true. But most of it I was not particularly convinced by. And I don't think he's an idiot, and I don't think he's insane. I mean, I've met people who claim to have an appreciation and respect for actual science who have said much dumber things than this guy has. And there are people all over the world who speak about things like politics who are way stupider than he is. So I'm careful not to. I don't think he was stupid, frankly, at all. I just think he's got. It's amazing how some people are in desperate need, and again, I'm very conscious of the fact that there are people who might say this about any of us. There are people who have a need to believe in something different. There are people who it's important for them to have knowledge that the rest of us don't have, or to be special in some way, or to really understand the world the way we don't. And I'm kind of curious to see what the reaction will be to this interview, because for some people it will upset them and they'll get annoyed and they'll get irritated and they'll be cross and they'll have to insult this guy. And for some people, they'll dismiss it as if it's not a big deal. And then there'll be those people who go, well, he's absolutely right. And I've done my own research since then. I just think it's extremely dangerous to disregard the hard work of many very brilliant people throughout human history who've done all the heavy lifting and gone to a huge amount of trouble to prove to us that we have a greater understanding of what kind of a planet we live on. Brilliant, brilliant people. And I don't believe that they're all just fools who've bought into a conspiracy. I think that's extremely arrogant. And I also don't believe that you have any right to just deliberately disregard the work of other people and say mine is just better because I've done the research myself. So what? I mean, you can research, you can research dog turds all your life long. It doesn't give you insight into the way the universe is built. And that bothers me. I think anyone who disregards anyone else, the way he seems to just dismiss all of science in favor of his theories, that's a fairly arrogant position to take.
It's hard for me to be as open-minded as you are, Gareth, considering what else he says. This Dave guy,
he's got theories. He's got theories about Kim Jong-un and nuclear bombs. And I mean, you've got to hear it. So we spoke to
NASA
him.
Is real, and the likes of the elite. Elon Musk knows the truth, and how do you get to that point? But, okay.
Some people like to believe that there are shortcuts to knowledge, or that they've discovered a shortcut to being more enlightened than the rest of us. And if you want to believe him, I'm not going to judge you either. But I gave him a chance to explain it. You can hear it. You can make your own mind up. That's the only way to do these
Very
things.
Good.
Tracy says flat earthers lose their shit when there's a solar eclipse. Yeah, and I did bring up the eclipse, and he's like, no, well, that's all a performance. We don't know whether the moon is actually 3D. It might just be an image, like projected into the sky. I mean, no, he's got theories. The great thing about your interview with a flat earther, says Carl, is that we know he's a moron before even listening. Well, I advise you to just try and go in with an open mind.
Yeah. Well, good for you, Gareth, that you did that. I'm proud.
I didn't want to interview him to make fun of him. I wanted to interview him to see whether there's anything in there that could be useful to anybody. And maybe there is. Maybe you're going to decide for yourself, right? It does become, and this is a very good point that Tracy says. She says a lot of people, when they're convinced by an issue, it becomes their gospel. And there could be some part of what he says that becomes a part of what you believe. He says that the world, we're being sold this idea that we are not connected to God, and it's very complicated. I mean, some of it may appeal to some people. And that's what's so clever. Is a conspiracy theory, if it's complete and utter bullshit, and it makes no sense whatsoever, then it doesn't really stick around for long. But the really great conspiracy theorists find one or two things that you go, I wonder why flight paths don't go over the Antarctic. And then suddenly your brain starts to work overtime to try and figure out what. Yeah, and then you start thinking, well, maybe that's true, and then you build on that, and maybe this is true, and maybe that's true, and eventually you've convinced yourself of a whole worldview that is just very, very difficult to conceive of if you haven't been sucked in.
So if it is flat, then what's on the other side?
Well, he didn't even answer
Is it a floating flat thing, or is it?
He doesn't go into that. He says that all of creation is this single, I suppose he would say, three-dimensional, but nothing underneath existence. And he says that beyond Antarctica being on the outside is a whole lot more land, extraterra. And he says that's where extraterrestrials come from. So you just listen to the thing. I'm not going to try and explain it because, frankly, I don't buy into it. You listen to him and you can decide. Take a flat earther to a harbor, says Savage Reader, and let him watch a ship disappear into the distance in pain. And then the Flat Earth Society, I asked him about them, and he says, no, the Flat Earth Society is a ridiculous organization that was put up by the government to make flat Earth theories seem ridiculous. So the government made the flat, you see, the government wants to lie to you, made the Flat Earthers Society, who are stupid and ridiculous, so that flat earthers are discredited. It's there's a huge amount of work going on just to keep us ignorant. Anyway.
Sure.
It does make my brain hurt to Eleutheria says it makes Gareth's brain hurt to try and explain the theory. Yeah, I can't explain it because it doesn't make any sense to me. But you can listen to Flat Earth Dave, and if you like him, then you can watch more of his videos. He's got his own podcast, and I thought, why not? Let's see what this guy's all about. Anyway, we've got to talk about a few things when we come back. Sia has found out who the most successful and long-standing CEO in the world is, and you're not going to believe who it is. the most successful and long-standing CEO ever. And you'll find out who that person is in the next hour. Also, while we're speaking of CEOs, Jeff Bezos is doing some new things which we might need to know about. I'm always thrilled to hear a story where the animals get the humans back. That's coming up too. And Leigh-Ann Moll's got a bunch of things for us as well. All of that and more on the way, cliffcentral.com. It is 7 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. Good morning.
Do you grunt when getting out of the car? Creak when getting out of bed? Do you walk into a room and forget why? Are you having trouble in the sack? Is the hump in a slump? Join me, Chris Avon-Smith, and Dr. Mark on the T-Health Show every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. where we talk to medical and allied professionals about those serious and not so serious medical lifestyle issues. The T-Health Show, sponsored by the T-Clinic. The T-Health Show is available on podcasts. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
That girl is a shooting star. You're wishing on, you're wishing. That girl is a neon heart. You're switching on, you're switching in your mind.
The Bitcoin market can be unpredictable. Instead, invest in a great economic quarter by using a bit of your coin to get a Nando's quarter chicken and any single side for only 49 Rand. Nando's. Fire it up.
Alrighty. Good morning. If you've just joined us, it is Friday, cliffcentral.com. We got Leigh-Ann and Sia and you and me, and we're all here to look after you this morning. Make sure that your day starts off just exactly right. Okay. We've got a couple of things to tick off the list this morning. I just love when the animals get back at people. And in the Kruger National Park on, I think, last weekend, ironically, I know some people who were there. They didn't see this. But apparently some elephants decided they'd had enough and they killed a poacher in the Kruger National Park. It was quite a big story in the news for the course of this week. We only got to it today because it was on the agenda and we just never got around to it. But I do love it, and I think we've got to give our salutations to the elephants this morning for having taken out a poacher. And I hope that this keeps happening. I hope the animals win every time, because there are too many humans doing stupid things and the animals are all on their own. And if you're a big elephant and you occasionally get to trot on, stamp, stomp, crush a bad human like a poacher, then good for you. I'm all for the elephants.
Well,
right?
Firstly, it's quite great.
Sorry about those elephants. I apologize. Bit noisy. You were going to say, Tia?
It's quite great that the elephants listen to the show. I didn't know they do.
They are big listeners. And I wanted to give them a shout out. So they're literally big and listeners. So
What
I
do you know
big
about that
listeners.
story? Like, did they find this poacher on the ground with a gun, or
they found the poacher with his stuff all stomped into the ground.
See, he was wearing a reflective vest that said, "I'm a poacher."
well, that's what I'm trying to understand, Leigh-Ann.
Stomped it. Now, see, as you see, he's had a tantrum. He's leaving. Oh, there he is. He's back.
Yeah,
That could be the case, but that's all I needed to know.
you know what, I do have some sympathy for him, because
For the poacher.
these crimes are driven by desperately poor people. Those are the poachers on the ground. And yeah, I mean, remember I had that show Heavy Petting, and
Yes.
I looked quite a bit into conservation and rhinos and elephants and poaching. And the people who do carry out the crimes are desperately poor. They'll do it for anything. So I do have a tenth of 100, a bit of sympathy.
I can tell you right now, I don't feel a damn for the poacher. Not a single shred of sympathy. Not even a little bit. Don't care. Not my problem, dude. You go and find some other way to make money if you're desperate. There are ways to do things that you don't have to destroy other people's livelihoods. You don't have to,
Yeah, of
to hurt
course.
animals. You don't have to do vicious and wicked things. Desperation is no excuse for behaving like an asshole, and I'm afraid poachers are just gigantic assholes. So, all right, who do you think is the biggest and best and longest serving CEO in the world?
Is it God?
Well, you might technically say that, but it's a little bit difficult to interview God or to find out exactly what God's business is. We still
You
not sure what
interviewed God once.
I did.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Got you into a lot of trouble.
we didn't get to his profit motive. We never got to understand what God's business is, because he makes these humans and then he kills them, or he lets them die, and we're not sure exactly what the point of all of that is. And I'm not going to begin to understand it. So a couple of interesting answers coming through. Mark Lamberti and Raymond Ackerman. It's not either of them. You got to think bigger.
Mhm.
Who's the biggest and most
No.
successful? It's not someone who's come up so far. If you've got any ideas, then send us a message on YouTube or on the WhatsApp line, and I'll immediately give credit to whoever manages to get this. Otherwise, Sia's going to break the
Spill the beans.
yeah, he's like Tokyo Sequali. He'll spill the beans.
Yes.
Yes.
Because this is
Okay.
how big they are. This is also how big they are. They are bigger in what they've done and how long they've run, bigger than Coca-Cola,
Mm-hmm.
bigger and has done more than Nike, Ferrari, and Microsoft. So not necessarily like
Huge.
wealth, but just in how long they've run and what they've done.
Yeah, and I suppose also because they have influence and power beyond what most companies have. It's fair to say.
Mhm.
I know the answer. That's why I'm saying these things. These are all clues. It's not the Pope. It's not the Pope. Beautiful creatures, Missy says. What about the
These
Pope?
names, by the way, beautiful creatures.
No,
I
beautiful.
also know the answer, but I love the way I'm convincing myself I don't. I'm
It's
like
not-
throwing out guesses.
It's not Ronald McDonald, and it's not Sundar Pichai. It's none of those. So, Sia, go on. Spill the beans like Tokyo Sequale did. Go on.
Well, get ready to curtsy because it's the Queen.
Again, I'm acting like I'm surprised. Wow.
So she's having a good time. Well, never mind. Sorry. And it is that she's having a good time right now. No, she's having far from a good time.
No, she had a very miserable birthday yesterday or 2 days ago.
95 years old. She is rightfully so ranked as the world's longest standing and most successful CEO. And a lot of this comes into play because how she has grown the House of Windsor, they call it, into the world's fifth biggest corporate brand. Isn't that impressive?
Well, if you think about that as a brand, I mean, what it does for Britain is kind of tied into that Royal House of Windsor brand in such a big way, and for any country to throw their lot in with a brand like that, that's significant. And obviously, it's 1,000 years in the making, so it's not messing around. It started off with conquest and military power and absolute rule, and now it's ended up as kind of this quasi-corporate royal stroke, brand building exercise. I think that's a pretty good guess. And I think wouldn't you prefer to be the CEO of that business than the CEO of, say, Apple? The pressures are so different, and the product is so different.
And I think what's amazing as well is that when she started out, it was definitely in the days of no women being CEOs. It was unheard of.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing.
If you put numbers to it, this is the value of the business of being royal, and particularly British royalty. They value it at 100 billion US dollars. This is US dollars. Personally, if you had to value the Queen, they peg her value at around 50 billion US dollars, which is just casually $10 billion more than the value of Coca-Cola. So this isn't just her as a person, but rather what she's done, the access she has, the potential of decision-making she can make. That is huge.
Well, now we know how much to ask for ransom when we kidnap her.
Leigh-Ann,
exactly.
I don't even think say that, because I don't know who's listening and what they'll say. Just don't even say that.
Leigh-Ann and I
Listen,
think how can we get some of that? We'll kidnap her and ask for $50 billion. That's going to work beautifully.
Like anyone would get away with that.
When we look at actual wealth, though, as in how much she has in her assets, they equate that to around 560 million US dollars. That's derived from private country estates, as well as collections of jewels and paintings and even stamps. So just from what the British royal family does overall, they bring in around 2.37 billion every single year due to tourism into the country. And not to sound like a crazy Meghan Markle preach now, but in this research and article, I actually understand what Meghan was saying when she spoke about the firm or when she spoke about the institution, because let me just digest it as simply as I understand it from this article. There is the family, so that's the Queen and Charles and Harry and William, etc., etc. Then there's also a board. I was very surprised to find out that this board constitutes around about 450 people who influence decisions that are made around the country. And it makes sense when you think of it in a business angle or perspective around what happens to these large pieces of land, and how does, what do they rent out and what don't they rent out, and what do they open and what don't they open. And I was also surprised to know that the royal family only get money from the profits that they earn due to what the firm dictates. I thought there was like an open-ended budget, like a blank check of like, hey, actually today we want to go to Italy, so fund that. But they only get about 20% of the profit that is made from the bigger business. Impressive. Yeah. So that's why everyone is so allocated. Like, actually, Harry, today you are not pulling your weight. You did not go and kiss babies, which would equate to...
You didn't cut enough ribbons and shake enough hands, so today we're not going to give you your 20%. Yeah. And you
So
can
they
imagine
do
how
say,
that would have
you know,
upset an upstart like Meghan Markle.
right, well, rightfully so. They do say that their relationship with the public is what generates this money, because it's where did you go and where were you seen and were you liked, and if that's all part of it, you know, your likability, that boosts PR, that boosts people who are interested in buying something that's associated with you or visiting a property that's associated with you, because that is how they make the money. It's a business being royal.
All right. While we're talking about CEOs, we've got to refer to Jeff Bezos, who's got the most successful company in human history under the belt. He apparently is going to go for money just about anywhere, it seems. He's opening up something called Amazon Salon. Yes.
Okay.
Salon. Amazon Salon. So what exactly is this? Well, of course, we here go to our grooming expert, Sia Sangweni, to give us more. No, really. Sia has the latest.
Isn't this just so left field? A hair salon being opened by Amazon? Aren't you surprised by that?
Sure.
So is it a physical hair salon, or can you order people to come to your house?
A physical hair salon. It's open in London. For now, it's strictly open to Amazon staff members, but they will soon open it up to the rest of the public in due course. But for now, they are just, and Jeff specifically is trying to get everyone excited by saying it's not like any other hair salon. Here you can use augmented reality to test out different hair colors and different hairstyles before you decide on something. Does he know something we don't know? Is there more money in hair than we think? What?
It's just weird timing given what the world's going through. I mean, the salon that I go to has just closed down, and the owner has rather adapted his property, his personal property, so that he can have, do service from there. It's just a weird time. I mean,
well, not if you're Jeff, you've got all this extra money lying around. You might as well go and start businesses in places where other people have closed down because they ran out of money, and you can keep yours going as long as you need to. Plus, I suppose if it's only for Amazon staff at the moment, it's like a way to keep them at work. So that's what's clever about him.
And looking sharp.
Yes.
Looking sharp, but I think it's also just keeping people in the office. That's what they're probably doing. I'm guessing it's just one of those gimmicks that, a lot of people fall for. Oh, we've got bean bags in our office, or we've got a little sleeping pod in the office, or we've got a great canteen, or we've got a games room. And what they're really doing is keeping you in the office for longer, you fool. Truly.
So it's just weird. It's like I can't imagine saying, no, I'll only go to Amazon to get my hair done.
Listen,
if you love the brand that much and it's easy for you, then maybe you might be invested in that way. But to me, to be able to say, this is one of the perks that they cite in their press release. If you like something, a certain product that's used in the salon, they can instantly deliver to your house. So you go home and you get it there. I'm like, if I like something in the store, Jeff, I can buy it. Sorry to read it.
I think Carl and Henry have both hit on the same thing, which I think is so bloody clever. And Carl and Henry should be in charge of Amazon instead of Jeff Bezos. Look at Carl's comment. He says, "I'm not getting a haircut or hair advice from a bald man." And Henry says, "Funny, Jeff doesn't even have hair. What a salesman selling ice to an Eskimo."
Good.
Yeah.
Spot on. Such a good point. All right. Leigh-Ann Mole, you've got a bunch of things on your agenda this morning you want to get off your chest, so let's get straight into it. What are the phrases? What are the phrases that we should stop using in email?
Okay, so these are already dying out. I don't know if you can point out whether you still use them or not.
I'm just going to point out that Leigh-Ann, by the way, she always comes up with these really interesting lists of things that we can do to improve our general behavior and our workplace etiquette and everything else. And this is just another one you can incorporate into your one thing for the week, I suppose, so that you don't sound outdated and old. Tell me which ones we've got to look out for.
So it's interesting for me because having just recently joined a new company, you tend to be over polite in your emails in the beginning to rather be safe, but it looks like this politeness might be dying out a bit. So here are some phrases that this article reckons will be, obsolete. They say 5 years, but I reckon it's already happening. The first one is "to whom it may concern." How often do you use that? I use it about once every 2 weeks in weird situations.
Like what weird situations? Because I'm trying to think of one. If you're sending an inquiry, maybe, or you want to cancel a payment or something, you're like, "to whom it may concern."
Yeah, or if you're ordering a new dustbin and you're given a municipality address with no name.
Okay. All right.
Then one word that we overuse so much is "please." And the thing is that it comes across as a bit awkward and unnatural if you think about it. That the fact that we're begging people to do stuff, we shouldn't have to say "please." Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a politeness. If I say to you, Sia, call this person and tell them that we're not doing the interview on Wednesday next week, instead of "hey Sia, would you please call this person?" And you throw "please" in. It's just a politeness. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, and it doesn't come from an ugly place or a disingenuous place. Don't you think "please" is important?
So the way that, the way they're saying is you don't need to say please see the attached. You can just say "I have attached," or "please let me know if you have any questions." Just let me know if you have any questions. And apparently 67% of emails consist of sentences that start with the word "please."
Oh, that's a lot, huh? That's 2/3 of all emails have the word "please" in them, basically.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Maybe that's just because those people are nice and polite. I'm not gonna be mean to them until I know for sure that they don't mean it when they say "please." There's something interesting from Tracy. She says she hates those sentences that open up, "I hope this finds you well."
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a meme right now that's going around with someone going, "Why did you find me?" After "I hope it finds me well." I don't even want you to find me. Leave me alone. Don't talk to me. Don't send me the email. Just leave me alone.
I like that. That's very good.
Again, then there's one that says "enclosed or attached, please find." We could just say "I have attached blah blah."
Okay.
And again, we don't have to say "please."
All right.
The other thing we say is "don't hesitate to contact me." Yeah, you, with or without your encouragement, they'll contact you. You don't need to baby them. I thought that I'd reach out is another.
I hate that. I hate that. That's very.
I use that a lot.
I'm just reaching out to say hi. I mean, it's like you in my head, I picture this person like standing on a precipice, leaning out with their hand outstretched. I'm reaching out to you. Like I think I'll be okay if you don't reach out to me. Rather just say contacting you because.
Oh, the very fact that you're sending an email means that you just thought about reaching out.
Yeah, I don't like reaching out.
The next one is
everybody uses it, but it's not my favorite choice of word. I don't think I've ever said to someone, "I'm just reaching out." Ever. I don't think I've ever used those words.
I say a lot of things like, "I thought I would just check if this is correct or that we're on the same lines," or "please note that." So it's actually it's a bit like, it's polite, but it comes across as a little less assertive and less confident.
Isn't it also
"be advised"?
It's a bit lawyery. Lawyers would say, "Please note that in paragraph X, Y, and Z, this and this is required." It just feels like you're being a bit lectury. Does it make sense?
Well, I mean, the same could be said for the substitution that they're recommending, which is "please be advised" or "be advised."
Yeah, I think that's also bad.
You're essentially
and then we have
vocab in half this morning.
This is basically what what we're doing is we're making Sia's emails 3 sentences long. We've just chopped
I've
out the rest.
actually, there actually isn't an article. It's just an email that Sia sent me, and I'm pretending that someone wrote an article. I'm just going through all the things he does.
I
I won't
know.
even
It
say
was nice.
hi anymore.
It was nice of you to try and disguise it that you weren't actually correcting Sia. This is what this whole thing is about. Leigh-Ann and I had this discussion yesterday, Sia, and we decided we were going to try and make it sound like it was something we needed to talk about. But it's actually all about Sia.
It's an intervention, really.
Yeah, I appreciate this HR intervention, evidently.
And then finally, using over polite words to end off your email. So like kindly, respectfully, sincerely, truly yours. Instead, just finish your email with your name or your pre-designed email signature. I wish I could do that, because so many times I end up thinking, now, am I going to say regards, or am I going to say kind regards, warm regards, have a great day, enjoy the weekend ahead, hope you have a good Monday. I'm so tired of it.
I always, because I still write letters occasionally, I still do a lot of those old formal things. I kind of like it. But basically what you're telling us, Leigh-Ann, is a whole lot of these politenesses can just go because people aren't polite anymore. They want to get to the point. And I hear you, but I think some of it is actually quite nice and friendly and decent and well-mannered. And I know some people don't care about manners, but I think it's still important.
No, I agree with you.
The biggest problem
It
I have with
changes the
email
tone.
is if they're too long. Like, just you don't need to. An email is not a written letter where you're explaining some complicated idea, or you're thanking someone for a lovely gift, or you're making contact with somebody to catch up. For example, someone who lives far away or whatever it might be. Emails can be quick, short, sharp, to the point. Very often with emails, I think it's useful if you just take the person's previous email that they sent you and you actually just insert the answers to their questions in the margin. And that's useful. But I hate those long emails where there's paragraph and paragraph and paragraph of stuff. It's too much. I'd rather have the pleases and thank yous than that.
See,
I'm always relieved when I'm always relieved when I've made contact with a new client and they reply with hi Leigh-Ann instead of dear Leigh-Ann, because then that sets the tone. Then I'm like, oh gosh, I can now just say hi Cheryl.
Yeah,
I do think it also depends on the type of person you're speaking to. We internally at Cliff Central, we often speak about different personality types, and how they receive communication or messaging. Some people don't care, get straight to the point, say it as it is. But to me, if I receive something that would be a little cold, I could take that personally. Like, why aren't you asking me how I am? On a Monday, why aren't you asking me how my weekend was? On a Friday, why aren't you wishing me a good weekend? You horrible, impersonal person. I do not want to do business with you, actually. Done.
But see, those are, I think those are kind of important. They're also politenesses, but they make it easier for people to respond in a human way rather than as just an official who's stamping something or approving something or declining something or setting up a meeting. I mean, I understand that those things have to be just, pure information, but I think it's kind of nice to just be polite and ask someone how their weekend was if it's a Monday. I think that's good stuff. I think that's good email etiquette. And I do believe, by the way, Steph is right. Like, don't use caps, bold, underlining in an email. That's really terrible and so unnecessary. And just keep it tidy. Like, if an email is very complicated, like it has bullet points and then it has numbers and then it's got paragraphs and then, there's a little box off to the side and there are all kinds of attachments and those
There's
things.
Microsoft Word for that.
Yeah, but I mean, really, some people put 23 attachments onto an email and you're like, where do I even start?
I disagree, Steph.
Yeah.
I disagree, Steph and Gareth. No, sorry. Sometimes you're dealing with people who they're missing something. They have a little bit of a tick, 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 boom here. And you need to spoon feed them. It's like you have to spoon feed them the actions. find attachment, just quote these 2 paragraphs, forward it to so-and-so. People don't read, people don't factor it in, people are missing chromosomes. We have to be gentle with people at work.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with phone calls. The few people who still make phone calls. Is there voice note etiquette? Because I prefer a voice note to voice messages. We were talking about this the other day. I don't even listen to my voicemail anymore. But is there a specific rule to that for you? Do you have certain things that you do and don't do in a voice note?
So, sorry, there was a bit of a delay. I feel like sometimes when somebody sends a voice note, it could be a bit rude. I'm talking about a voice note or like on WhatsApp, just a recording. Because I might be in the situation where I can't listen to it. I might be in a shop or in a meeting or doing a podcast. So that's what I don't like. I mean, if someone sent me one now, I could only look at it in half an hour's time.
But that's precisely why I think voice notes aren't rude, is because if you call someone, if someone phones you now, you have to answer the call or it can go to voicemail. But if you send someone a voice note, they can listen when they've got a moment. And I think when you send a voice note, it can't be something urgent. So usually I'll send one if I'm driving because it's easier than typing and it's much safer. I'll send one to someone if it isn't something urgent and I need to explain something to them rather than type out a fat paragraph on WhatsApp. And I think a call is much more invasive. I think because they have to respond to the call, right? And usually your phone is around you and you either have to divert it to voicemail or you have to answer it. And you might be busy with other stuff. Whereas the voice note you can listen to when you're finished with that stuff.
Well, the only etiquette I'd suggest with voice notes is get to the point and say what you need to say. For example, if you are a person who's driving or getting into the car, I don't want to hear, what's that driver doing? Oh, well, no, just get to it.
That's bloody imbecile. Doot doot.
I don't want to
need to know. Oh no, I've just taken the wrong off ramp. Like, I don't care about that. Start again. Just delete that voice note and start again.
Exactly. And even if you
don't do a Gord Laws. Gord Laws sends me like 3-minute long voice notes. That is a podcast. That is not a voice note, and it's very annoying. Don't do those. That's really yeah. Yes. Anyway, all right. Listen, we got something much more important to talk about this morning, and we spoke briefly about this earlier. I mentioned art and how the art world is changing too. If you think you're a fantastic artist, you may be interested in what we are going to talk to Paul Bayliss about. He is the Senior Specialist Art Curator at the ABSA Group. And when in 2021, ABSA decided to launch the L'Atelier Art Competition, it might be something that you're interested in. They might be looking for you. And we'll tell you about that in a second. It's a proudly African initiative by a proudly African bank, ABSA, in partnership with the South African National Association for the Visual Arts. And they officially opened applications for this art competition. Since its inception 35 years ago, the ABSA L'Atelier has showcased and continues to invest with some of the finest young artists from the 12 African countries where ABSA has a presence. So, Paul, very nice to see you. How are you, first of all?
Good morning, Gareth. Good morning, Sia, and good morning to your listeners. I hope you're well. I'm great this morning. Thank you.
Good. You see, that's the kind of politeness Leigh-Ann wants to cut out of conversation, but I like it. So Paul, tell me about L'Atelier and what you guys do there and what's been going on for the last 35 years in respect to that competition.
Yes, so I mean, Gareth, as you said, we've, as ABSA with Sonava, have been sponsoring this for 35 years. And it's really the whole aspect around the ABSA L'Atelier is one, identifying, nurturing, and supporting young artistic talent. I think so often, when we think of arts and we think of the rich art talent, one tends to look at Europe, look at America, look towards the East. And very seldom do we actually look in our own backyard. Seldom do we actually say, let's actually celebrate the richness that we have. And that's what the L'Atelier is about. It's about finding these artists, helping build their careers, and actually celebrating them, because we've got some of the best artists in our backyard that can rank amongst the best in the world. And we need to start recognizing them and celebrating them for who they are.
I think that's so important. Just to give people an idea, if you're going to look this up, l'atelier means the studio in French, and it's an L and then an apostrophe, atelier. And you can find that online if you want to look it up. But I'm sure that we'll post all the links for you a little bit later. So African art's actually very in at the moment. And, you know, the trends in the art world change all the time. And sometimes this place is on vogue and sometimes that place is the most exciting. And South Africa and Africa as a whole are very, very much in demand at the moment. In fact, all the European and American galleries are looking for African exhibitions because we're still one of those places that's producing truly original stuff. And the rest of the world finds what we're producing very, very interesting. Do you think that's fair to say?
It is fair. And, you know, one of the things that I really enjoy about the job and looking at the work that comes out from across Africa, some countries, the artists have access to materials. So if you look at within South Africa, we are more fortunate here. The artists have access to canvases, paints, etc. But in some of the African countries, they're not. And that's when you see the creativity also coming through, where the artists are now using more, as we would term, found objects that we would normally discard in our everyday life. They bring those objects to life, giving them a new meaning and actually reinterpreting them through their work. And that's when you start seeing the creative genius coming through from these individuals.
Yeah, I certainly get the impression. I've got some friends who in America are very involved in the art world, and they're very excited about what Africa is producing. And we have such a wide range because we've got such cultural differences on this continent. I mean, we've got more languages in Africa than they have on any other continent by a long way. We have incredible history to draw on. We have a tradition of creating sculpture and painting and many other things that are a terrific artistic expression. So there's a rich tapestry to draw on. Who do you think is buying most of the African art, and why do you think they want it in contexts which we would consider much more classically European or Chinese or even North American?
I mean, when you look at art, I mean, it is one of the fastest growing alternative asset classes there is at the moment. And it's, you know, you can buy it either in terms of a lifestyle investment, Gareth. I mean, just imagine that's the one thing I do. Whenever I walk into a new space, I look at the walls, I look at, you know, the gaps in the room, and I think, you know, can you imagine an office, a room without art on it? So from a lifestyle investment, it brightens it up. It's something, as you said, across Africa, you've got different languages, you've got different cultures, but art transcends all of that. Every person has an opinion about art. Then you've got the investors, you know, which are both locally and abroad. And as you've also indicated, African art is still very much the flavor of the month. I don't really like to use that term, but it is highly investable. And you've got people from America, Europe, and Asia that are really chasing up these young artists, investing in them, supporting them, and buying that work. And that's, I think, the beauty and one of the successes of the L'Atelier. I mean, having supported it for 35 years as Absence and Nava, many of those artists have now that have previously won it and so on have become almost international stars within the arts industry overseas. I mean, they've been sought after. Their works, you can constantly find the works on the primary and the secondary market in auction houses and so on. And it's so great to see these artists almost coming to the fore. And then at the same time, many of them supporting younger artists, because a lot of them have gone on to open their own studios, foundries, and so on. And having done that, they're actually encouraging, educating a new generation of artists to come through. So it's almost a cycle that's going through. We're now working in 35 years later, a whole new generation of young artists, but you still have those investors and collectors that are supporting them.
So, Paul, who can enter and tell us the details of that? Because I'm sure there are people who are listening to us now are going, let's do this. I've got an idea. I've already produced some stuff. Maybe I can submit that. And what are the prizes? I mean, people want to know what they can win, but let's start off with who can enter.
Anyone. Well, that's not the. Well, you have to be within a certain age, Gareth. So, unfortunately, I'm a bit old. But if you're 21 through to 40, you may enter the competition.
I can still enter.
There you go. Yes, so you've got no excuse. And you can be self-taught, or you can be professionally trained. If you think you've got the ability, and within the times of COVID that we now live in, the entire mechanism is online. So you go onto the website, you register, log in, and then just follow the prompts, and it allows you to upload your entry. The adjudication is also online, so we've been able to bring in adjudicators from around the globe that have an understanding and appreciation for art from the African continent. So we can bring in those experts that serve as adjudicators. And I suppose the most important, as you've said, Gareth, what is up for grabs? What do the artists actually get?
Right.
We've had to, because of the times we live in with COVID, we've had to re-envisage the prize. I mean, previously we did offer a residency through the competition, but unfortunately that's no longer possible. So what we've done is, but we've kept the same ethos and the same values to say, how do we support, how do we nurture, and how do we actually grow these artists? Not just about giving them money. So to each of the what we term ambassadors, the winners, we provide them with a laptop, giving them access to the internet and so on. We provide them with sufficient data so they can connect. And then the first thing that we then do is we put them through 10 master classes. We bring in experts from, again, around the globe that really teach them in terms of how to manage their careers, from media and PR through to building up an art portfolio, managing relations, issues around contracting and intellectual property. I mean, as you're aware, it takes, being a public figure, it takes 20 years to build your profile, but it literally you can destroy it in 5 minutes. And each artist is a brand. And that is what we teach them. How do you actually build your brand up over time? Once they've gone through this,
people do need help in that respect. I mean, that's very handy, very useful to an artist.
And how do you use social media to profile yourself, to get your work out there? And then we pair them up with a mentor from their country, leading individual within the Arts Authority who works with them. And the 3 artists will then work towards a collaborative exhibition that will then open in the APSA gallery and then tour to their respective countries. So it gives them a profile within South Africa, but at the same time, it will build their brand locally within their own country. Then lastly,
they can sell stuff at that exhibition, and that could be the trampoline into all kinds of international exhibitions, right?
Correct. And we would support them through that. And as APSA and Sonava, we don't take any commission on the sales. So again, all the work that's sold and the money from that goes back towards the artist to support them and so on. And then lastly, we will offer them a solo exhibition as well with APSA that artists can take up within a 5-year period. So it allows them to go away, continue working on their craft, but continue to perfect what they're doing, and then come back to APSA and take up that solo, which then would also further boost their profile. So literally, after 5 years, they've got a good foothold within the visual arts. They've got the necessary skills to take their career forward, etc.
I think this is terrific. The closing date for the competition is the 31st of May, so end of next month. You've got to get in before then. If you want to find out more, go to l'atelierabsa.africa. That's LATELIER.absa.africa, and we'll post those links on cliffcentral.com. Paul, very nice to see you, and best of luck with this competition. I'm looking forward to it. Very, very good.
Thank you, Gareth, and thank you to
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem. There's Paul Bayless, and he's busy looking for a new, upcoming, and very interesting artist. The theme, by the way, is the act of art, which, these themes have to be quite general, but you can interpret that any way you like. Could be very, very exciting. All right, we got George Meany joining us in just a short while from now, but that's pretty cool. I mean, I think we do have enormously talented people. A lot of people, though, are saying that if Sia sings, if his art is anything like his singing, please don't enter Sia.
It
Very,
will
very
be
important.
amazing.
Well,
I think there was a typo. That's what Carl was trying to say.
no, I'm kind of with him. If your art is
No.
please, we've made it through this week. We don't need that. No one needs to be punished. Sarah wants to just go back to our email conversation earlier and just some key words that I think drive her as crazy as they drive me. I hate this kind of language. Circle back, segue, pivot. If anyone's using those words in corporate communications at the moment, you need to be smashed on the head with a large...
No. You can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. Once you're in it and everyone's using it,
such bullshit.
You can't avoid it.
Oh, I hate those terms. Those little cliched words, and they really are becoming such cliched words. I can't stand them, especially, since COVID. There's so many people are using that word pivot. We have pivoted our business to do.
Well, let's park that and move on.
Or let's take this offline. I can't stand that. You're in a meeting and someone goes, "Okay, Leigh-Ann and I will take that offline." You really are a chicken.
It's a reality.
Yeah, don't.
You guys you're lucky that your job doesn't need you to do those things. But once you're sucked into it and you're in a corporate situation, it's there.
Must be absolutely soul destroying to hear that kind of crap corporate speak every single day. I cannot stand it. Circle back, segue, pivot. Don't do it. I'm with Sarah. That's so bad. Ugh, it's horrible. Tracy says, please, you don't need to start your voice note with "sorry for the voice note." That's also true. Yeah. I listen, there's so many things that we're all doing. Get straight to it. I'm totally with everybody who's had all of these suggestions so far. I think it's terrific. Very, very good. All right. We've mentioned this a few times. So Tuesday is Freedom Day, which means that we get to celebrate 27 years since South Africa became a democracy, 27 years since our first elections, our first multi-party free elections. I can still remember I was at school when that happened. So I wasn't able to vote in those first elections, but I remember what an exciting thing it was. I was, one of those people who followed the news as a nerd at high school. And I remember watching, all the stuff happening on TV, thinking how exciting this was, something that you were living through that is actual history. But 27 years is obviously the amount of time that Nelson Mandela actually spent in jail. So if you think back to the foundation of our democracy, if you're not too young to think back to then. I mean, Sia, you weren't even born then, right? 1994.
I was, funnily enough, conceived around Freedom Day 94.
You really are. You're a freedom baby.
I was conceived then because 9 months later I was born.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a good point.
My parents were celebrating freedom in their own way.
Very good. So the point I wanted to make is it's 27 years since freedom and democracy came to South Africa. And we do, we complain on this show often in the Burning Platform about how little progress has been made. And we tend to get very upset about, when we see that there are still people who are living in shacks and there's still places in South Africa that don't have running water and electricity. And there's still so many people who are unemployed. But we do have to take stock of the fact that we've come quite a long way in 27 years. And I do think going into the weekend now and thinking about celebrating on Tuesday, it's just something to keep in mind that no matter how little you think has happened or how badly you think this government has performed, and they have, and I don't want to give them credit. I would like to save the credit, though, for the people of South Africa, because we walked an incredible road over 27 years. And we are still one of those places where hope springs eternal, and it makes me very, very happy to think about 27 years of a newborn country that's now becoming a serious adult. I mean, 27 is like way beyond the cutoff for you to start doing, to stop doing childish things. And I believe we're making incredible progress, even if it's slow for some people. And I do think there's more opportunity in the South Africa of 2021 than there ever was in the South Africa in 1994 for white and for black and for rich and for poor. So I'm just really excited about what the next 20 years will hold. And yes, we have lots to get through and we have major challenges ahead. But I'm not a patriotic person, in the standard definition of patriotism. But I don't want to live anywhere else in the world. I want to be here and I want to make a contribution here. And this is where, if you have a contribution to make, it will be appreciated. And you can make an enormous amount of success for yourself if you can do something for everyone else. So let's make it happen. Just a quick note.
What a lovely message.
Thank you. For the 27th of April next week, because we've got to think about these things.
Yeah. Very good.
All right. Is there anything else that you and Sia want to throw in before we go to George?
Yeah, there's one quick thing that is brand new to my ears and eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's now that mushrooms.
What about your nose and mouth?
Yeah, that too. Mushrooms really are magic. So it's now been discovered that eating one medium mushroom a day can reduce your risk of cancer by 45%. I mean, that's just...
incredible. But do you have to eat it raw? Do you have to eat it raw?
No, you can eat it in any way you like. So they're saying 18 grams of mushrooms per day reduced the risk of getting the disease by 45%. That's enough to fill around 1/8 to 1/4 of a cup. So it's really a tiny bit. This is done by US experts. They performed an analysis on 17 cancer studies. This has been going on from 1966 to 2020. So it's a big, proper study.
So I had mushrooms on Wednesday morning. I cooked them in some. You see, this is why I asked, do you have to have them raw? So these are normal little white mushrooms that you buy at the shops, and I fry them in some butter and some lemon juice, and then I put them on toast, and that makes just the best. It's my favorite breakfast in the whole world.
They're so easy to incorporate into anything. I mean, I remember growing up, I hated mushrooms. I only started liking them in my 20s. I know a lot of people still won't touch them. But yes, you're right. So the mushrooms you're referring to are Agaricus bisporus. And there have been some studies in the past slashing the cancer risk, especially with prostate and cervical cancers, by eating mushrooms. But now this report's come out and it's really big. Even shiitake or shiitake mushrooms, the extract of shiitake mushrooms kills viruses and slows tumor growth. So yeah, it's pretty cool, I think. I always thought that they were kind of iffy and didn't really hold much nutritional value.
I love that. I do like mushrooms, and I think I'm going to up my intake of shiitake mushrooms as a result of Leigh-Ann's suggestion this morning.
The problem now, of course, is that they're going to become popular as cauliflower did, and the prices will go through the roof, won't they?
Well, you told us first, Leigh-Ann, so we can go and buy up all the mushrooms this morning and then leave none for anybody.
You can grow your own mushrooms too. My parents used to grow them on top of a fridge. That's what freaked me out about mushrooms. Every time you turned your head, it was a different shape and size. Ew.
Yeah, so Tracy agrees with me. Mushrooms on toast, the absolute best. And Orksy Head says, I only eat magic mushrooms. Well, those also have magic, I suppose. So that's also good. If you want to do that, that's 100% right too. Here he is. It's time for George Meany. What's happening, George?
Hey, Gareth. Very nice makeup you've done there. Leigh-Ann. It's
Oh,
Sorry.
oh, that's
Thought that was-
good.
What do you mean? What's happening?
Well, I'm wearing makeup.
You see why we need George here. Nobody else noticed. Sorry, Leigh-Ann. Oh, Jesus, how rude of us. I can see now that you're pulling all those funny faces at the camera.
Oh,
You know,
Thanks,
hamba,
George, for
hamba.
noticing.
This is like when people say to you, they're upset with you. Girls get upset with you if you don't notice that they've had a haircut or something.
Ugh, you know what? We are completely oversensitive. I agree with you. I mean, George could have said nice makeup, and I could have gone, it just sucks that I have to do this every day for you to give me a good comment. We're oversensitive. Don't read too much into it.
All right, but nice
Thanks
of George.
for the compliment.
Yeah, thank you, George. All right, so what's happening in the world, George? What do we need to know this right?
Well, I mean, obviously, everybody knows about Prince Philip from last week, and but I don't know if everybody knows that he spent 16 years designing the custom Land Rover Defender that carried his casket.
Now, I saw that in the news, but I mean, how much design goes into it? Really, all he had to do was flatten the back and then, put a bunch of clips.
Well, I mean, Land Rover doesn't make buckies, and that car looked like a little bit of a bucky. So it must have been quite a big design change. I mean, the wheelbase also looks a little bit longer, and the panels around the back. I mean, you imagine Land Rover would have had to probably take the back of the car and move it forward, cut it in half, but apparently spent 16 years doing this. So.
What impressed me was how beautifully clean and shiny it was. I mean, whoever had been polishing that had done a really good job, because I've never seen a Land Rover that shiny in my life.
It was a classic green from the old days of Land Rover, and I don't know if you've ever watched that TV series. I think it's called the Queen or something on Netflix, where they go through the life of the royal family.
The Crown, yeah.
The Crown, yes, that's it. Just from me watching that TV series, seems like they like their Land Rover excursions, the two of them, across the countryside.
Yeah, Philip liked them so much that he even crashed into people at 97 years old. So he liked them, that's for sure.
And then a tire slasher, a woman in Arizona, somebody got upset with her and found her tires slashed one morning. But not only did she find her tires slashed, she also found the tip of somebody's finger lying next to the tire that was slashed.
Oh, no. Oh,
George, I saw this story, and I have to correct you. It was bigger than the tip of finger. It was like the first two sections. Yeah.
which was pretty gory. So the purpose, apparently they're doing the investigation, but it seems like it could be her neighbor that has slashed her tires. So she's done something that this person doesn't like, and they sent the finger away in a brown paper bag for some DNA analysis, but wonder if they're going to use it for a fingerprint.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
I had a friend at varsity, and he had an ugly breakup with a girl, and then she found his car and slashed his tires.
My type of girl.
But didn't cut off her finger. But also, why didn't they take their finger? If it was me, I would have taken my finger with me to try and have it reattached.
Yeah, I mean, you leave
there's
evidence.
No way you can't chop off your finger and think and not recognize that happened. Oh,
yeah, she didn't walk away going, "Oh, that was a good tire slashing episode. Nothing bad happened."
Well, you know what? It's actually quite difficult. I've never tried it, but I've tried to cut rubber, tire rubber, not slashing a tire, but actually cut tire rubber. And it's very difficult to get the knife into the tire. So I would imagine, people cut themselves in trying to slash tires all the time.
Yeah, you need to have a fairly big knife, and you need to be pretty strong. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. So I would advise people not to do this. By the way, I think it's extremely destructive, and not particularly helpful. Plus, it's really difficult for the person whose tires you've slashed to actually get them replaced and to get the car towed away, because it's not something you can just jack the car up and replace all 4 tires. There are better ways, let's say, human beings. Let's all try not to slash each other's tires wherever possible. That would be nice.
No, it's tough to slash them because you don't have the right amount of anger in you. You need rage and heat and red. And
that's why your fingers get cut off when that rage comes.
Do not break up with Sia Sangweni and let him know what car you drive. Always Uber to the destination with Sia on a date. That's what we did.
Shame, poor Uber driver. Here's a story, Gareth, that irritates me a little bit, and it's about a fatal crash of a Tesla. Tesla driving, in America somewhere, obviously, actually Texas to be exact. Tesla Model S smashed into a tree on Saturday at high speed after failing to negotiate a bend, and then burst into flames, killed the only occupant, which was the driver. But the driver was apparently found in the passenger seat and the owner in the back seat. Now, Elon Musk tweeted that they've downloaded the data from this Tesla, and they found that it looks like no part of the self-driving functionality was activated or even available in that particular Tesla Model S. So just because they found the bodies not in the driver's seat, now it's assumed that it was a self-driving accident and not human failure.
Oh, God. Now, what irritates you about this is probably the same thing that irritates me about it, is that this immediately makes people go, oh, well, we can't have self-driving cars because they're so dangerous, which is so stupid. It's like these 6 people who got, you've got a bad kind of reaction from a vaccine. Now we must ban the vaccine. A lot of people don't seem to understand how things happen in the world, and whether statistically negligible is a term they've ever come across is beyond me.
Yeah, well, I mean, the rule is you're supposed to, in these self-driving cars, you're supposed to sit in the driver's seat firstly, because you need to have access to the steering wheel to take over if you need to. And because they're being silly and sitting in the back seat in the passenger seat, this sort of thing is happening. But what I found interesting, George, was I saw the burnt out shell of the car, and it looks completely different to when a petrol car is found burnt out, because that obviously explodes.
Well, exactly right. The lithium-ion batteries are incredibly flammable. So, if those things rupture, the fire it incinerates the car.
Mm. Yeah, it looked like if you maybe touched the frame, it would fall down in ashes.
Like a vampire.
I just want to go back to the tire slashing for a second, because there are lots of interesting stories coming up here. Eleutheria says, Pink sliced her hand open slashing her husband's tires. It's a dangerous activity. That's pretty good news, that, you need to do this with care and caution. It's useful information.
Just don't do it.
Listen to this story. This is from Snae Zulu. Says, when my mother heard a taxi driver had stabbed my brother, she took a kitchen knife, went to the taxi rank, and slashed all the taxi drivers' tires. She did it with ease because she slashed them all. That is one tough. That is, your mother is the toughest woman in the universe. My God.
There's that anger.
There's that anger, exactly.
Yes.
Oof. Well, I'd love to know how many taxis she got to.
And she survived. She seems to have got away. Like they didn't mess with her. She must be very tough.
Well, you don't mess with an angry woman with a bag. You'll get hit with it, and it's if she had a knife in that bag and she was wielding the knife and slashing tires, I'm sure that all the taxi drivers ran away.
Wielding, I love that. All right, go ahead, George. What else have we got?
And then Lamborghini breaks sales records. Even during COVID, and this is internationally, Lamborghini closed its books for the first quarter of this year with another record achieved, and the increase in sales more than 25% over the same period last year, and 22% over the 2019 year. Just in case you thought it was because COVID made their sales drop in the last year. Now, to put this in perspective, In South Africa, a Lamborghini Urus goes for 3.9 million rand, and it ranges all the way from about 3 million, 3.9 million, all the way to Lamborghini can go for anything. The Aventador goes for 8.4, and the Aventador Roadster goes for 9.2 million rand. So these aren't cheap cars.
My God, they're approaching 10 million rand.
10 million rand for a Lamborghini, and they've smashed sales targets. So there is money in this world.
Unbelievable.
How much must your insurance be on that? Wow.
Well, I think a lot of drivers of these exotic cars, they don't take out the insurance like us mere mortals do. They take out insurance based on when they drive the car, because most of the time that car is actually standing in a garage.
Okay.
Which brings down the cost. And that's it for today, Gareth. But I want to just kind of comment on before I came onto the show, you were talking about voice notes and WhatsApp, and one thing that I wouldn't say irritates me, but that I don't understand is when people phone me and I pick up the phone and they ask me, "Have you got a minute to talk?"
You've already taken up a couple of seconds of that stupid question. Just go.
I've just answered the phone. Yes, I do have a minute to talk. Otherwise, I wouldn't have answered the freaking phone.
Yeah,
my dad leaves voice messages. My dad actually, when you go through to voicemail, he'll do that, and he'll go, Leigh-Ann, Friday, 23rd April. 08:05 a.m. Please call me back. Thanks. Bye. It's infuriating.
All right. On that note, 8:05 a.m. Friday, 23rd of April. That is the end of the Gareth Cliff Show for this morning. We will see you on Monday at 6 a.m. bright and early. Have a good weekend. Ciao, everybody.